Hey, I'll see you on tour in Las Vegas, Chicago, and Grand Rapids. In Chicago, it's stand-up and a live panel show. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets, and make sure you go to jimmydore.com. They had their elections, their second round of voting in France, and the left party won. Now, everybody was afraid that the far-right party, the Le Pen party, was going to win. I think they call themselves the National. They used to call themselves the National Front, but they switched it to the National. Anyway, political paralysis looms in France after a shock election result. With Parliament roughly split into three different blocks, it could take weeks for MPs in typically conflicted system to build coalitions. So here's how it works in France, right? So they have the first round of voting, right? It wasn't for the president. This is for their version of Parliament, right? So they do a first round of voting, and if somebody gets over 50%, then they go right into the Parliament. But nobody did, right? So they have three major parties. They have the Macron party, which is the centrist party. They had the Marie Le Pen party, which is the right-wing party. And then they have this lefty party. What's the name of the lefty party? Can you look it up? And so what happened was nobody did. So then the center party, Macron, and the lefties decided that wherever there was a third person on the ballot, they would get rid of, so they could go head to head with the right-wing Le Pen party. And so that's how the lefties won the plurality, right? So they got the most votes. So here, we'll go through this. For more than 50 years, whenever France held a parliament election, voters would know the next morning which party would be in government and what political agenda. This time it's different. After Emmanuel Macron called a surprise snap election, and after the shortest campaign in modern history, French people delivered a spectacular rush of tactical voting to hold back a surge of far-right support. So everybody was afraid that the far right was going to take over France. The resulting political landscape is divided, and the outcome is complicated. Macron will take time to let the dust settle, his entourage has said. An alliance of parties on the left, the New Popular Front, that's what it's called, Popular Front, surprised pollsters by coming in first. So the lefty party no longer came in first with 182 seats. But it fell significantly short of the absolute majority of 289. So there's like 517 seats, I think, or whatever is to double that, 290, whatever that is. So maybe 580. I don't know. I'm not a math surgeon. So that would allow it to instantly form a government. But so nobody got a clear majority. So it's split up between the three parties. The lefty party has the most. Macron's party, the centrist party, has the second, and then it's Le Pen's the right-wing party has the third most. This means the Eurozone's second largest economy, which is also the European Union's biggest military power, is entering a period of uncertainty with no clear roadmap. Less than 3 weeks before it hosts the Olympic Games. Oh, I didn't even know that. It could take weeks of dialogue and potential coalition building to come up with a government and a prime minister. So do you see so what's going to happen is the center party and the lefty party are going to figure out a power sharing agreement. And then the prime minister is going to be probably from the lefty party. But France, and so there's the prime minister and the president. Macron's the president. So those are different things. But France, with a powerful president and conflictual political system where parties reach vicious standoffs, does not have a recent tradition of building coalitions. The French parliament is now roughly split into three blocks. In the lead is the New Popular Front, that's the lefty party, which blindsided Macron and the opposition when it managed to swiftly and efficiently unite 4 weeks ago to counter the far right. It is a rainbow grouping that in parliament will run from the firmly left-wing France unbowed LFI, which has the greatest number of seats at 74, to the Greens, which increased their seats to 28, through to the more centrist Socialist Party, which significantly increased its seat to 59. The broad left alliance's deliberately strident policy manifesto includes capping prices on essential goods, such as fuel and food, raising the minimum wage, reversing Macron's increase in the pension age to 64, and imposing a wealth tax. So the lefties are swinging their power around. They're not bowing to the centrists. They're making demands. It took care not to push forward one leader during the campaign. Jean-Luc Melanchon, the veteran left-winger and firebrand orator who founded LFI, regularly made TV appearances during the campaign. But each time he did, other parties in the alliance would carefully state that he was not in charge and was not necessarily their choice for prime minister. I bet he's going to be the guy. Macron's centrist grouping finished in second place with 168 seats, only 14 seats behind the New Popular Front. That's the new lefty party. The centrists previously in government lost 80 seats amid voters' clear anger and rejection of Macron. So the voters are rejecting Macron and the centrists. But the president's entourage immediately pointed out that although they were reduced in number, they were still standing. Okay. Beaten back into third place came Marine Le Pen's far-right anti-immigrant National Rally Party and its allies with an unprecedented 140. So they still got a lot of seats. They still grew. The key takeaway of the election's final round is the renewed strength of the French tradition known as the Republican Front, in which voters from all backgrounds grouped together in tactical voting to hold back the far right. In the space of 1 week, the far-right party and its allies went from a first round in which it topped the vote in more than half of the constituencies in France and was within reach of forming a government to being knocked back into third position in the second. So the first round, they were in first place. Second round, the lefties got together. They coalesced. They made a deal with the centrists, and they were able to push back the far right. Beaten back into third place came the key. Well, already did this,
Same
right?
one.
Le Pen said victory had simply been deferred. She will now focus on the presidential campaign of 2027. The party leadership will face a reckoning over its strategy and haphazard vetting of candidates, one of whom dropped out after photos circulated of her wearing a Nazi cap.
Oh.
The Socialist Party leader, Olivier Faure, recognized the fractured and bruised nature of French society after a divisive campaign. For many on the left, the immediate priority is to address key issues for Le Pen's millions of voters, including the cost of living and poor access to public services in rural and peripheral areas. This is essential if the left is to present a credible alternative and continue to hold back the far-right's slow but steady rise. Constitutionally, it is possible for a group in parliament to govern without an absolute majority. Really? But to do this, that group would have to ensure that opposition forces do not club together to form a majority of two. Yeah, of course. Okay. The first session of the new parliament is going to be on July 18th. It may be that only then will possibilities for coalitions become fully clear. So there's this guy, Melanchon, the leader of the coalition of New Popular Front, who won the legislative elections in France, dropped some truth bombs. This sounds like the real left here, not the fake one like in the United States and the UK. So here's what he said. Since October 7th, they have tried to use international law. So this guy wants to recognize Palestine as a state. So that's big deal. So let's hear what he says. Since October 7th, they have tried to use international law to construe what is legitimate self-defense. But it is not legitimate self-defense to indiscriminately murder an entire population as a means of collective punishment. He's talking about what Israel's doing to Palestine right now. Something the world has rejected a long time ago. So this is a big deal. What kind of international law do we have that permits the bombing of schools, hospitals, murdering people en masse inside their apartments and homes? Those are called war crimes, and they must stop. Cutting off phone lines, water, electricity, hospitals, subjecting an entire population to illness and disease, to death and suffering with no recourse. Do you know what that's called under international law? A crime against humanity. So this is a big deal. It's time for this to stop. So this is what happens. We are a witness to all this, and our presence is the only recourse for the people being killed. Global public opinion must be heard at the time of this 20th century. What is he saying? That never under any circumstances, regardless of skin color, religion, nationality, we will not differentiate between human beings. who are trapped and defenseless. The law must be applied. The International Criminal Court must stop and arrest the war criminals, Gallant and Netanyahu. Wow. Wow, this is big. That's a big deal. So that's a big deal. So that's what happened with these elections, that this guy is probably going to be the prime minister. If I'm elected, not only would I grant asylum to Assange and Snowden, but I would also decorate them both because they helped France by denouncing the espionage to which it was subjected. You see, this is what a real lefty party. Not the bullshit lefties we have here in America. Jeremy Corbyn says France's extraordinary election results provide an urgent, valuable lesson. Don't concede ground to those who sow division and fear. Build a bold left movement that offers an alternative of inclusion and hope. This is how you defeat the far right. Got a boy. All right, so that's a big deal that happened in France. And now we'll see how they, if they can put together a ruling coalition. Hey, I'll see you on tour in Las Vegas, Chicago, and Grand Rapids. In Chicago, it's stand-up and a live panel show. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets, and make sure you go to jimmydore.com.